Hello everyone, Charles from the Bible Unbound, and recently I have shown you guys something from Whitaker House Publishing, which was the King James Easy Reader, and what I have today is their flagship, which is the King James Sword Bible. Now this is the same sort of Bible that has the helps and hints in it, but it has all of the original text of the King James 1611 in it. Now, as we take a look at the back of the box, you're going to see that it has the same sort of helps that were in it. So anything in the Old Testament that is God or an angel talking is going to be in red. So just like in a normal red letter Bible, that anything the words of Christ are in red. So it's kind of bringing the whole deity of Christ and God in the triune aspect of it, as it's all God speaking both times. So I like how they're doing that. Plus, they actually do the underlining and definitions of some of the more archaic words or harder to understand words. And it still has the helps in the front that the King James Easy Read has on it, where it helps define some of the words, which if you're struggling as a King James reader, which I know I was when I was younger, that's what has been something that I would have really loved. Now, this is a 12-point font size, which is the same as before. I love the hints and tips that are in this, and we're going to open this up and take a look at it. So, let's take it out of the box. So this is going to be the Acorn colored bonded leather. So it's the same as before. Let's go ahead and take a look closer at this. So this is that really nice bonded leather texture. It says Holy Bible, King James Version, and Whitaker House Publishing, with that nice sword logo on the front. And this is that same kind of bonded leather they had before. Nice little gold inlay there. I do like that it's a vinyl paste sheet and a vinyl liner on it, instead of some of these ones that do more of a paper, which can be a little bit more fragile. So as we get in here, you'll see that it's the same classic presentation page, KJV Sword Bible, and this has the thumb indexes, just like the other one did. So this is their large print edition, 1611 version of the King James. The complete red letter, which is an Old and New Testament. Hebrew names of God explained. Definitions for antiquated words. And there's Old Testament references to the New Testament. And then references concerning the Messiah in it. That does have a read through the Bible in a year plan. And a color study maps in the back. This comes in a variety of colors and covers. Everything from genuine leathers to the bonded leathers to their ultra softs. Basic contents here. As we take a look, it's the Old Testament, New Testament. And they lay it out in alphabetical order to make it easier to find for newer readers. And you have your introduction. And as I always say, read that introduction and preface at least one time. Something like this, you definitely want to read the helps and hints in the beginning and how they're laying out their information, because it will be a wonderful help later on as you go farther into it. So, same thing when they're talking about their special features. There's red lettering in the Old and New Testament, where God's speaking and it is in red, and when Jesus is speaking, it is also in red. And there's shaded areas of text in the New Testament that actually indicate quotes from God in there as well. So an example of it they even have it in the Old Testament. So Isaiah 7:14, where it says, "Behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son." So this is an example of that shaded text. There's an example of the defined antiquated words. So a just man and privily. So just in here is righteous, and privily is a secret. So secretively. Hebrew names of God explained. and an explanation of how they're defining it. So most Bibles, you actually have to read the preface where they talk about each of the different ways that God is represented. So each word for God in the Hebrew and Greek can mean something different in the English text. Whether it's the first letter capitalized, whether it's all letters capitalized, can make a difference between which name of God they're using. And in here, it's pretty much the same. Listings of whether it's a singular or plural form of the deity as well. There's cross references usually at the end of each of the verses. And there's an essential theme string reference, which if you're familiar with something like your Thompson chain reference system, it's kind of similar to that, where they're actually taking a topic and going from Genesis to Revelation and showing you all the links to it. An example of the little touch on their read through in a year program. As I said before, the Hebrew names and their attributes of God. Anything else really quick? Nice. The additional compound titles for God and the description names of God. I like they talk about the string reference study. So just a quick example, like anything on wrath or anger, they show what the scripture reference is as they're going all the way from Genesis all the way through to Revelation, which you'll see this, as a theme going back and forth in this. And I really like this study. It kind of gives you an idea of what you could kind of get into when you dive a little bit deeper and go into the themes of something like a Thompson chain. As we get past this, we'll go into, and they have the read through the Bible in a year plan. So they break down each day of study. So it isn't numbered as in, January, February, March. It actually just has the day that you're doing and then the scripture reference. Now, some people could actually mark this, or if they just put a note as to what day they're on, they can, however you'd like to reference it, whether you'd actually add like a mark in the Bible to go through it, or whether you're just going to take a notation of which day you're on. Now, as we go a little bit farther, we'll go directly into the Old Testament, and we'll see a little bit more of what I'm talking about here. So in Genesis, right off the bat, you'll notice that there is a lot of red letters here, especially in Genesis 1 is where you see God talking, where he says, and God said, let there be the firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from waters. So that lets you know that is God actually speaking in here. But as we go farther in, you'll notice these nice references where they actually underline the word and they tell you the definitions, like pitch is usually like a tarry sort of substance. It's a really clean text. I do like the way that the text is laid out. It's really easy to read. Now, there is a little bit of show through in here. It's not as bad as most Bibles, but the way they lay out the chaptering is the only thing that takes a little bit of getting used to and noticing that there should be a verse number that's darker than the rest, which is their indication of a chapter start. There's some of the older King James Bibles that use a pilcrow, so that way you can tell this is the start of a new chapter. But most of where a chapter would be is where these themes are, where they're talking about the breakup, like the flood subsides and God's covenant with Noah. But in longer sections that there's going to be a chapter break there, which this is laid out in a dual column, verse by verse. There isn't a whole lot of textual footnotes at the bottom. Most of your footnotes that would normally be there are what's defined at the end of a verse, or where they're actually underlining something and explaining them at the end of a verse. And as we talked before about the plans, where they were going through the actual topical study, at the bottom of the page, you'll see a notation here of the plan, like which specific word that you're using as a topical study. It'll show you where you're at and where your next point is going to be. So Thompson chain system has the similar sort of thing where they're on the side and then you actually look for your topic number, and it'll tell you where the next scripture is from the one that you're reading right now. This is a very good sort of thing to actually have in here. I like that the way that they're approaching this to make it a lot more readable and approachable for people. I really, really like this. And then we're going to jump ahead into the New Testament. You'll see that the formatting is the same. Same thing with, I didn't jump and show you the poetic section, so you'll notice that the Psalms and Proverbs are laid out the same way. So there isn't a poetical sort of format. So it's all laid out the same way as a verse by verse for each of the Psalms and each of the Proverbs. But doing a verse by verse can make it easier if you're preaching and teaching from, because it's much easier to find the specific verse that you're looking at versus hunting through the middle of a paragraph. Because depending on how some of these companies do their typesetting, it can be difficult to find like the actual verse number in the middle of a block of text. That's where a verse by verse comes in really handy. And we'll go a little bit farther because there isn't a whole lot to it. So the red letter is pretty good. It's pretty bright. It can be a little pink at times, but still really well laid out. It looks really nice. It's very readable. I think there's some other little things in the back besides the maps. Nope. But the maps are these nice classic that you would see in your older King James. They look like they're photocopies of what you would see in these older, like 1611 facsimile sort of styles. They're really beautiful maps. I do like these. Then your rear end sheet and your rear paste on page. So this, all in all, I think is a pretty solid little Bible here. Now, there is a lot of people that swear by these nice old classic Sword Bibles. And I can definitely see why people like this, especially if you're someone that is getting into the King James or somebody that you've had for a while and you struggled. This might actually help you dive a little bit more into it and, maybe learn to appreciate the King James a little bit more. Now, I'm not one of these people that, completely detracts from the King James. The King James is a beautiful Bible. I really love the way the poetic sections actually read. The Psalms, when I think of the Psalms, I usually think about it in that sort of cadence of the King James. Now, the New King James comes close, but there's still a lot of people that swear by the King James Bible. And it's still one of my favorite Bibles to read. I wish I could have appreciated it more when I was younger, but it's still in my repertoire. I have a couple of really good King James at hand, and I'll go through a few more of these pretty soon when we start looking at the Bibles that are in my collection. So with that, we appreciate Whitaker for sending us a copy of this so we can show you guys. And, as always, we ask you to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if you like this or if you have any other suggestions that you'd like us to take a look at. And we'll definitely try to work that into the reviews. So until next time, we hope that you have a nice day, night, evening, wherever you are. And we hope to see you in another video.